Hello and welcome back to Just Meg Elise, a podcast about healing, remembering who you are, and diving into deeper alignment. I'm Meg, and each week I'm going to be sharing the soul work, the self-reflections, and the healing modalities that have helped me in the hopes that they help you too. So for this week's episode, I wanted to talk about why intention matters, but so does impact, and also to start to practice the pause. And I'm going to explain what I mean by all of that. Sometimes when people come to us over something that they say we've done wrong, or maybe we said something that hurt their feelings or whatever, but somebody's coming to us with a grievance, sometimes our immediate reaction is to get defensive. And it could be for multiple reasons. Maybe we're getting defensive because we're like, well, that's not what I meant, and I don't want them to think that that's what I meant, so it's our immediate reaction to get defensive. Or let's also look at the opposite side of that, shadow work. Maybe there is a ring of truth to what they're saying and it's hurting your feelings because you're like, well, I know I'm not a bad person. I don't want them to think that about me. And all of us make mistakes. Sometimes when our mistakes are pointed out to us, our first reaction can sometimes be defensiveness because sometimes it's really hard to hold that we've done something wrong. Sometimes our brain can spiral into shame, and we're going to talk about that as well. So again, there's multiple reasons why we could possibly get defensive when somebody's bringing up something like that. And also, let's say they hurt us on something, but we haven't brought it to their attention. Sometimes we use that moment to be like, well, you did this. No. Moving forward, I want you to try and practice the pause. Okay? When somebody's coming to you with something and you find yourself immediately getting defensive, instead of saying anything, pause. And say to yourself, listen, if it was me coming to a person with the same grievance, how would I want to be treated in this moment? And can I lead with impact first? Yes, my intention matters. Yes, it matters if that's not what you meant. And you're allowed to explain that. Like, if you hurt somebody's feelings, like if somebody comes to you and says, listen, this thing that you said, it really hurt my feelings. It could have just been the way that you worded it that was triggering to them. But you didn't mean to be triggering to them. You didn't mean to hurt their feelings. You're allowed to explain that. But the thing is, don't lead with intention first. Lead with impact first. And here's what I mean. When somebody comes to you with a grievance, instead of getting defensive, if you find defensiveness coming up in you, you witness defensiveness coming up in you, which is human, pause and apologize first. Then you can deal with explaining the intention after that. So we're looking at impact first. Apologize for the impact of your actions first, and then we can go into intention. You could say something like, I'm so sorry that hurt you. That was not my intention. You could say that, but don't lead with it. Don't say something like, well, that's not what I meant, and you did this. Try not to lead with that. Because here's the thing. Let's look at it from the opposite lens. Let's say you were going to somebody and saying, listen, this thing that you said, it really hurt my feelings. And their immediate response is, well, that's not what I meant. And you did this thing the other day. That would hurt your feelings, right? It would hurt your feelings even more. It's like digging yourself further into the hole. So we have to consider that same thing with how people are receiving us when they're coming to us for a grievance, okay? Sometimes what happens is when somebody brings us a grievance and we're having a hard time holding that, it's because feelings of shame are coming up because we know we've made a mistake. Whether that was our intention or not, we realize we've made a mistake. And sometimes thoughts of shame can start to spiral. And we really need to hold ourselves with so much compassion in those moments. And this is where the self-love practices come into play. So sometimes when people come to us with a grievance, our thoughts can start to become like, oh my God, I've made a mistake. I'm a horrible person. Like worst case scenario thoughts. I'm a horrible person. I only make mistakes. I can't do anything right. Like these horrible thoughts that tend to come up, which are not true. You're allowed to make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody. And we have to hold ourselves in compassion in those moments. You have to speak back to those thoughts and say, no, I'm human. I made a mistake. It's okay. I'm human. I made a mistake. It's okay. I forgive you. Talking to yourself. I forgive you. I love you. Okay. You have to start speaking back to yourself like that, because what happens is if we don't develop what Brene Brown calls shame resilience, we will push away anything that's trying to point out something that we need to change about ourselves. And that's not healthy. All of us have picked up poor coping mechanisms because of trauma. None of us have gotten through this life without a little bit of trauma. I hate saying that, but none of us have. All of us have experienced some sort of trauma. And because of that trauma, we've picked up these mechanisms to deal with that trauma, which might not be the healthiest thing, right? Including bypassing when somebody's telling us something that's wrong because maybe it's too hard to hold, especially if you're somebody who is already prone to really negative thoughts, again, which those are not your fault. We've talked about this before. Sometimes the negative thoughts can come from the way a caretaker spoke to us, or a sibling, or a teacher, whatever it is, and we picked up those incorrect thoughts about ourselves and internalized them and started repeating them back to ourselves. Now we're becoming our own worst enemy. We're repeating those really negative thoughts back to ourselves. I'm no good. I'm not the perfect weight. I'm not the perfect person. I don't have the right career. Whatever it is that you're repeating to yourself, which is false most of the time and was picked up from childhood. But again, if you already have the inclination to have really negative thoughts, it becomes much easier for us to spiral when we're sitting in shame. It's a normal human thing. I've gone through it so many times, but I've done the work to heal those things. Now when somebody comes to me with something that's hurt them, I try and lead first with impact. I'm so sorry of how that impacted you. That was never my intention. I'm so sorry if I hurt you. I love you. Telling them I would never do anything to intentionally hurt you. And I'm so sorry if that hurt you. Are you okay? Like asking first, what can I do to make this better? Are you okay? Apologizing first, leading with impact first, and then you can go into intention. After we talk that through and say, listen, what can I do in the future to make this better? How can I reword this in the future? Something like that. After we talked about that, then you can say, listen, please know that was not my intention. I didn't mean for it to come off that way. I actually meant X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. And you're welcome to explain that, to let them know that you never meant to hurt them. That wasn't on purpose, right? But still, our actions, regardless if we meant to hurt anybody, sometimes our actions do hurt people. And it's okay to acknowledge that. So again, trying to, the next time somebody comes to you with a grievance, treat them how you would want somebody to respond in that moment. And also, when somebody comes to you with a grievance, that is not your opportunity to bring up your grievances. You can do that at another time. Sometimes we tend to do that. We are trying to protect ourselves when we do that. It's not healthy, but we are trying to protect ourselves. It's a protection mechanism when we're saying something like, well, yeah, I made a mistake, but you made a mistake too. We're equal. We both made mistakes. Maybe that's true. Maybe it is true. Absolutely. Usually it is true. Normally mistakes are made on both sides. But in that moment, when they're coming to you with something that's hurting them, coming to you with love, that is not your time to air out your grievances. Okay? We can do it at another time. And you should talk to people about things that hurt you. But in that moment is not the time to do it. Because in that moment, it's going to very much seem like a one-up scenario. And that's not going to feel good to them when they're coming to you, truly just trying to repair what's happened and speak to you with honesty, which is very healthy. That's a healthy thing, healthy communication, right? That's what we should all be striving towards. I do want to mention one more thing, because I know during this conversation, inevitably somebody's going to bring up, well, what about if you have a narcissistic person in your family and they tend to over-dramatize something that happened in order to take the heat off of their mistakes and put the heat back on you? Because that's a real thing. That is definitely a real thing. And people are gaslit all the time into thinking they've done something wrong when they haven't, because that person doesn't have shame resilience. They cannot sit in their own wrongdoings. They can't sit with that because, again, they start to shame spiral. And so they twist the truth and push everything back on you. That's a real thing. And I want to acknowledge that in this conversation. But for the most part, if somebody, here's how you distinguish if that's happening or not. I want you to think about the person in front of you and think to yourself, has this person, on the regular, does this person make me feel overall safe? Is this person a safe person for me? Is this a friend who I know loves me and cares about me? Is this a partner who I know loves and cares about me? Or a child, or a teacher, whatever it is, a mentor, whatever it is. If the answer is yes, and they're coming to you trying to repair something, just saying, listen, this hurt me and I want to talk about it, because nobody wants to talk about those things unless they actually want repair, unless they actually want to keep you in their life. That's why they're talking to you about it. A lot of people don't like holding on to unresolved tension, right? Because then it just festers into other things. And I have become one of those people. I don't like pretending like everything's okay. I'm going to talk about it when my feelings have been hurt, just like I would expect you to do with me. I want to be told when I've done something wrong or something has hurt your feelings, because then if it's something I can work on and try and fix, I will try and do that. One time a friend told me, this was years ago, but she said, you don't text me very much and it hurts my feelings. And I never even thought about it. I've never been a big texter. I don't really text a lot of people, but it hit me. And I think immediately when she told me that, I remember getting kind of defensive, like, well, you don't text me, because at the time I didn't feel like she did, but from her perspective, she did feel like she did. She did feel like she reached out sometimes and I just wasn't reaching back as much as she was reaching out to me. And I can see that from her perspective now. I can. And so I really have tried to text people more. And specifically her, I started to try and text her more because I thought, this is something I can work on. This is something I can change. And every friendship, every relationship might need something different from us. And a lot of times we don't even consider that, especially with platonic friendships. We tend to put a lot of weight on romantic relationships and what our romantic partner needs from us and trying to change. But when it comes to friendships, sometimes we don't put in as much effort, but it's still just as important. So I've had conversations with new friends where I'm like, hey, somebody brought up to me once in the past that I didn't text enough. So I just wanted to ask, like, what is your ideal text between friends? Like, are you texting each other every day, maybe checking in once a week? Are you just sending memes every now and then? Like, we had that conversation. And I remember in that moment, she actually said to me, she goes, this is so interesting but weird at the same time, because I've never dived this deep into what I need from a friendship. So I appreciate you having this conversation with me. And I'm like, you're welcome. I wish more people had open conversations like this about what we need, especially in platonic friendships when it's often not talked about. But like in that moment, in that example, when that friend said, you don't text me enough and it hurts my feelings, I could have easily gone into, well, but you don't text me either. I didn't. I remember pausing in that moment. Defensiveness did immediately come up in me, but I didn't voice that. I paused and I thought, okay, this is something I can work on. And I asked her more questions about it. Like, are you wanting me to check in with you more or tell you about my day more? Like, because I do love you and I don't ever want you to think that because I'm not texting you as much as you want me to, that I don't care for you. I care for you very much. But still looking at that and figuring out where we can make a change. And leading first with, I'm so sorry if that hurt your feelings, that was not my intention. But leading with the apology, the impact of your actions first, and then you can go to intention. So none of us are perfect. All of us are going to make mistakes, and people should be allowed to come to you when those mistakes affect them without us spiraling into shame. Could it happen? Yes. And then try and speak back to those thoughts, realizing when you're having really negative, shame-based spiral thoughts and speak back to them. No, I'm allowed to make a mistake. I am a human being. I love you. I forgive you. It's okay. I'm allowed to make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. This same mistake that you've made, somebody else has made the same freaking mistake. It's okay. It's okay. So along those lines, because you guys know I love journaling, I have written out some journaling prompts in case it's helpful to you. So here's the first one. When have I felt defensive and what was I protecting inside me? Sometimes defensiveness comes up within us because it's almost like we're protecting that inner child. Like our inner child feels shameful that they made a mistake, especially if you had really authoritarian caregivers. When you made a mistake and that was harshly judged, we can then internalize that and harshly judge ourselves in the future when we make a mistake. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make those judgments of yourself correct. Most of the time they're false and they're over-exaggerated. I'm a horrible person. I can't do anything right. Those are very false, over-exaggerated thoughts. I'm not blaming you for those thoughts. Those thoughts are not your own. They came from somebody else, which you then internalized. It's human, but that's what's happening. Here's my next journaling prompt. Have you ever been hurt by somebody else's impact, even when you know they didn't mean to hurt you? Okay, most of us have been, right? Like I remember a friend said something to me one time and it triggered me. It triggered like body dysmorphia stuff. It was about like a pair of jeans that Anyways, I don't even remember exactly what she said, but I remember it hurt me. And then I brought it up to her. But I knew she probably didn't mean it that way. She didn't mean to hurt me because I know she loves me. So when I brought it up to her, I even said that, like, I know maybe you didn't mean it, but the way it came across was this. And she goes, oh, I didn't mean it that way. And we talked it through. And now she knows in the future that maybe I could reword that. Maybe I don't say it exactly that way, right? Because we all have things to work on. All of us, including language and how we speak to people and being more tactful and being more compassionate and empathetic with people. All of us can work on that, right? And here's another one. What does it feel like in my body to pause instead of react? But it's practicing the pause. It's thinking to myself, okay, defensiveness is coming up on me. That's okay. That's a human thing to experience. But we need to apologize first, acknowledge our impact, and then we can go into our intention. Pausing does not make you weak. It makes you wise. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you want to go deeper on your healing journey, there are so many different ways to connect. My book, Don't You Dare, is available for purchase on Amazon. If you're looking to dive more into the ego voice or shadow work, I think it's a beautiful tool for that. I also have my most loved meditation bundle, which are my highest rated meditations over the years. And again, everything I'm talking about is linked below in the show description notes. I also have a course called the Affirmation Reset course, which helps us to rewire negative thoughts and negative beliefs. I also offer one-on-one coaching and hypnotherapy services. If you're interested in a session with me, please visit my website, meganshirey.com, meganshirey.com. I also teach a free live guided meditation every Sunday morning on the Insight Timer app, and you don't have to have, somebody asked me this, you do not have to have an annual subscription to Insight Timer to attend the free live meditations. You can just log onto the app and you'll see the live people, and if you just search for my name, you'll be able to find it, but below it's going to have the specific link that brings you to the events page for me. So I teach there every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern, which is 9 Central, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific. So hopefully you can join us there. If you like these episodes, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and please leave us a review. It helps us to expand this community. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be joyous and at ease, sending you infinite love and light, and until next time.